the agenda, as I said, the first part is going to be about the fundamentals of studio lighting. It has 3 sections based on the light. So light is predictable, light is manageable, and light is everywhere. I decided not to go too deep into these things, and I simplified them by dividing the point of interest into 3. And this is basically what it is. What you need to look at is your subject, the size of the modifier, and the distance. Why the subject? Your subject can be a person. The subject can be, if you're doing like jewelry and stuff, your subject is this big. So if you're using a flashlight, it's bigger than the subject. And the relationship basically is the bigger the source of light, the softer the light. The further the source of light, the harsher the transition. Your subject, as I said, you will see if you have a person, if you have an object, if you have 2 persons, if you have 3, 4, 5 persons. Sometimes you have a group. You have a group at the studio. You need to make sure that all the people in front of you are well lit. The larger the source of light in relation to the subject, the softer the light. The smaller the source of the light in relation to the subject, the harder the light. You decide based on the effect you're going to be having. When a client is at the studio and you're using probably $5,000 camera, he's not going to notice it. Once you open this, he's going to ask you, is it your equipment? Seriously. That costs like $80. I worked with a couple beauty companies before, and usually they ask for this type of effect. So it's all flat. And my theory is, because all these pictures, they'll be touched by their retouchers, so they need the least of the shadows. So I don't know if it's true or not. Nobody told me this, but I think when you go, when you're done with the pictures and you go through the dodging and burning and stuff, a flat picture will work better than if the shadows are already defined. It's my own theory. I don't know if it's true or not. But once you put your strobe, you can just go back and use it this way. It doesn't matter. It's reflective from the inside, so you don't have any spill of light coming from the outside. So you don't need to use all this. If you need to control more your light, just collapse it back, and it's gonna work. We did it before, I think we did it like a month ago. We had to use it this way. It worked fine. So just I like it because it's big and I can pretend that it's expensive. That's it. But the same effect can get it from many modifiers. Just be creative. As long as you have the right effect that you're looking for, just be creative. You can do anything you want. So the second part is, by moving the source of light, you can control the hardness and the softness of the light. That has to do with the, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the inverse square law. The hardness and the softness of the transition of the shadows has to do with the distance. Real life usage of the inverse square law, as I said, even lighting when shooting groups or a moving subject, controlling the background, saving battery power, and controlling the contrast. If you work with a client and you need to return probably like 50 or 60 pictures, you don't have time to go and retouch each of them. So the decision, you need to make it at the studio. It's a small thing that you do at the studio, but if it's not done right, it's 2 hours in front of your computer, and you're better off just understanding what you're doing in the beginning. I looked at photographers, how they're doing things. This is your tool. You're in front of a client and you're shooting. It's black, it's sexy, it's beautiful, and the equipment is beautiful and everything. The client does not know the outcome. You know the outcome. If it doesn't work if you set up your light, you took a picture and it doesn't look good, stop. You need to go back and you remember the cogiter. You need to put down your camera and you think about the problem. What's happening right now, what's happening with a lot of photographers, and I know you guys are much better than this, but anyways, it's about an ego thing. So you're the sexy person with the sexy camera and you're shooting and everything, and you know things are not working out. What people are doing is they keep shooting. No, I'm gonna keep shooting, I'm gonna fix it in post. Guess what? You come home, you open your camera, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. They're all the same. You come to the end, like the shot, you don't have any more pictures, you don't even have like good product. You could have fixed it, like if you just like put down your camera, 15 minutes, identify the problem. Okay, I have bad spill on her cheek. You're not gonna fix it in post. Just move your light. Just move your light. It's done. It's fixed. Just keep shooting. It's not an ego thing. The problem that you're gonna have at the end is, since we like that the outcome is perfect, and the outcome obviously it's not perfect at the situation, what's gonna happen if you're doing TF, you're not gonna give any pictures. The other person worked with you, the MEI worked with you, the model is expecting her pictures, and you're gonna be just dragging. You know, I don't have time to do it. I'll send you this in 2-3 weeks, and you're in the back of your head, you're just hoping that she's gonna forget about the whole thing. You know, seriously. And you know what? At the end, you have to face the problem. And a lot of people, you know what they say? You know what? My card is corrupted, and I lost the pictures. He lost the pictures at the studio day one. And we're talking about real life situation here. Put down your camera, fix your problem, and you know what? It's a good thing when you tell your client that for now we're just going to be adjusting the light. That's it. It's a process. If I'm a magician and I get the shot from the first shot, I'll be doing like 6,500 clients a day. You understand? But it's not the case. Everybody's different, every face is different, every concept is different, and they expect you to work on your light. And when it's perfect, at least for you, or it's manageable, you know what? It's a go. So this is just a little thing that I wanted to talk about, and I was hoping to have time to talk about it later, but anyways, it's done. So back to the relationship between the subject, the size, and the distance. It's easy to control if you have one light. So if you're doing like low key, or if you're using one light and a reflector, the reflector will work the ratio for you. You're not gonna have like two sources of light. You have like one light. You have the ratio at, let's say, at 1. The reflector will give you like 1/5 of the amount of light. The shadows are beautiful, everything is fine. The inverse square law, you can use it for your reflector. Either it's further down, or you can bring it closer to your model. The problem arises when you have two lights. That you need to work on, because one light is easy to manage, two lights is less easy to manage, 3-4 lights, it starts to be a nightmare. I never used more than 2 lights on the subject. The most I did before, I think we did like probably 11 lights. But 11 lights were just like flashes with strobes, and we were illuminating the scene, not the subject. Like with gel light, like on the walls, on whatever, you know. So it was like big, and some of the lights we did not even need to use them there, but we had a lot of lights, so we just like had fun with it. On your subject, once you're done with the first light, if you're using the second light, you're introducing 3 problems. I think they're written there already. The ratio of the light. So, is it a decision that you made to have 2 sources of light? Is it a necessity, or you wanted to do this, you're going for that specific look? I'll show you later what we call the cross lighting. When you have 2 lights, the first problem you'll have is the ratio. The ratio, as I showed in the picture. The second problem is it changing the mood or not? If you're going for low key, and you have the mystery about low key, and you introduce another light, Will you keep the same mood or not? The third one is the most important, is overlap in shadows and highlights. Every light will produce shadows and highlights. If you have them hitting the same part, you will have double highlights at some parts, regular highlights, double shadows, regular shadows. That's a nightmare to fix on post. You're better off just like back them up. And that brings me back to the example I was telling earlier, that if you identify the problem, move your lights. Bring one of the lights so it doesn't overlap with the other light, because you will have a lot of problems at the end. It happened to me before with a gel light. I had like bad spot of red over here, and I did not notice. I had to go back and I had to, I don't know if you guys know frequency separation, and like you need to add like one layer just to change the colors and everything, and didn't look good at the end. So I could have just fixed it like if I noticed it. But it's a problem that you need to identify if you're using 2 lights, 3 lights, or 4 lights. The safe zone for me, if I'm using 2 lights, is putting them in a diagonal and hide them by the body of the person. So like the second golden picture I show, the light is behind and the body of the subject is in the middle and the other light is here. If I have 2 lights shown from the same side, I would have had problems on his body. The first example, there are 2 lights at 45 degrees in the back of the model. So it's only hitting this part and hitting this part. They're overlapping around his hair in the back. But I don't care. It's not in the picture. I don't need to show his hair, but they're overlapping at the back on his back and his hair. But for me, I only got that strip from this side and strip from this side. So that fixed it. His face was not illuminated. His face, we had a big reflector, white reflector, that reflected back the 2 lights toward his head. Otherwise, like it's going to be like big black strip here. But we needed some texture. We needed some information. So that was the reason behind it. If you decide it looks good, by all means, it's perfect. My point is, if you decide to use second light, understand it. Understand how to use it. If it creates a problem, fix it. The added value of everything we're doing right now is real life problems. It will happen. It will happen to you. But if you know the reason behind it, if you know what causes it, it's super easy just to go and switch the light. And we were talking about this the other day, and sometimes you do your setup and you have like 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, whatever. 1 light misfires. We had so many of this at the studio, you know, like you set up your lights, everything is good, and 1 light misfires and you have like beautiful shadows around here and so mysterious, and like half of her face is in dark. And it happened that you have beautiful catch light, and you know, and you're looking at the picture and you're like, yeah, you see, I did it, you know. And you pretend, so you shut down that light, you don't use it again, and you just continue. So, but at least you know that if there's a problem, identify it, fix it, and that's it. You move along. Light is manageable. Light modifiers. So, hard to soft. Hard light, Fresnel heads, snoots, gobos. I don't know if you know what gobos are. Okay. Anybody who doesn't know? Okay. Gobos basically is the modifier. You can just have an X-Acto, a cutter, cut anything you want on a light board, put the light board on the light, and you get the reflection of what you want to show on the subject. As I said, Fresnel's heads, snoots. The light comes from here. It's a small small size modifiers, so gobos, barn doors, flash accessory. Ball reflector is this one here, and pretty much most flash accessories give hard lights. The reason is you cannot have like big stuff. You know, on your flash, usually it's just like little modifier. The biggest you can get, I think, is this big. So compared to the 7-inch what? Like something like that. Yeah, most likely that's the biggest you can go. If you have like 2-3 flashlights in a big softbox, then you got the softer light. But here I'm talking just about the accessories that you're going to be putting straight on your flash. So there's so many light patterns. You guys know most of them. So anyways, you have the flat, the clamshell, the Rembrandt, the butterfly, the loop. I think there's like 5 or 6 more patterns. For the flat, I think we use the huge umbrella. You can see the catch light in the eye right here, like was just like straight up light in front of the model. So that's the butterfly. The butterfly is defined. Merci. The butterfly is defined by the shape you get under the nose. It's up to you to decide if it's the good pattern to use or not, depending on your model. How big is her nose or his nose? Because sometimes it's big. It's gonna touch pretty much like the lips, you know. So as I said, these are the safe zones that you can start with. You can always start with one pattern and just like move your light around depending on the outcome on your camera. Third one is clamshell. Clamshell is pretty much the same thing. It's just like you have 2 sources of light, one coming from down, one coming from above. You can look at you can see the catch light here. You have them two of them here. You have the butterfly effect right here, but at least you have like smoother transition. And the 2 other ones, they're pretty much the same. It's just like you move probably a couple inches and you got the other effect. So you got the loop. The loop is almost a Rembrandt. It's not closing the triangle here. So you have your light coming this way. I think it's about 25 degree angle versus 45 degrees. So you need just either you move your light or you move the face of your subject. I'd rather move the face of my subject and just get this done. We work with no modeling light. So if you use modeling light or continuous lighting, like you know exactly the effect and you can move your the face of the subject around. For us, just like stay still, take a picture, okay, just move a little bit. Is it worth it to go through like the little inches to get this? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on the effect you're going after. So the Rembrandt, you got the triangle here. So the difference is, as I said, that little triangle. So this one is like a whole triangle. This one is a little open. Do you start your work by, now I'm going to do a Rembrandt? I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, because you know what, if your models start moving, you will notice that you did a perfect Rembrandt when you're home. When you're looking at your computer, oh yeah, that's perfect Rembrandt. But did it do it on purpose? Probably not. It's me, I don't do it. So I just like set my lights, she's gonna be moving around. Sometimes you'll find like beautiful Rembrandt, sometimes you'll find beautiful butterflies, beautiful loop. But did I do it on purpose? No. So it's just the outcome that worked this way. Last one is the split. So the split is you have like at 90 degrees, your light is at 90 degrees. I don't know if you know Chris. So this guy is our fourth model later on. You can have broad split or you can have short split. It depends of the ratio of what's lit and what's in shadows. Here are two-third broad. Here are two-third short. So in the dark, the difference is just like you move the face of the model. Caroline, we have this part here. This one is a split, right here. Okay, light is everywhere. This is just to talk about the decision to work in a studio or not. So, studios are, the difference is when you go outside, like you mentioned it, you move your subject toward the light. At the studio, you move your light toward your subject. So basically, that's what it is. So instead of, when you are outside, like you don't have a lot of latitude, you don't have a lot of choices. That's the sun, these are 2-3 walls, that's a car, that's whatever. You need just to place your model based on the source of light. You need to keep looking at your f-stop, you need to keep looking at your ISO. 3 o'clock in the afternoon is not 5 o'clock at night. You need to boost your ISO, do whatever to have proper exposure. You can always bring your lights outside. It's up to you. You have like one light, you can do like high-speed sync, you name it, like you do whatever you want. At the studio, at 3 o'clock, midnight, 11 o'clock at night, you can use the same settings. So it's easier. It's easier. You don't have the constraint of the time. Your problem, your MUA is not here. She's late. You did not lose that window of lighting.
It's not really commercially viable, really, like for independent photographer. You can't really make a living off of that.
Well, some people do, and you know what? Besides, if you're doing wedding photography, you'll be doing this outside anyways. So, because wedding photography, you'll document what's happening at the wedding, the wedding ceremony and whatever, but you will take the couple outside. You're not going.
Like weddings, I mean, other than that.
It's up to you. It's up to you. Light is everywhere. You can do anything you want. You can bring your lights. You can use ambient light, like outside light. The studio is a.
Who wants to buy this?
Who wants to buy anything right now? This is the thing. Before they bought those things, you know, like you go online and you buy them. Yeah, right now, as you said, everybody has his phone, and with the bokeh that you can get from your phones right now and the depth of field and everything, you know, phones are evolving. So people they tend to consider themselves more photographers than just like hobbyists right now. You know, you have your phone. I think they're talking now about iPhoneography or something like this. It's a new section of photography done by cell phones. So, you know what? Whatever makes you happy. You know, like for me as a photographer that works with light, I know this is not photography yet. Maybe in 2-3 years it's going to change, but right now, if it makes you happy to pretend you're a photographer, just go for it. You know, like. It's not, you're not my market anyways. The advantage of studios are everything is controlled. So this is the thing that you pay for. You go outside, nothing is controlled. You understand your light, you work with it, but you have like more latitude when you're when you're at the studio. It's all controlled. You move in your light to have the effect that you want. Another advantage is equipment. You know what? You don't want to like drive around the city with like 5 or 6 like light stands. We're not talking about boom arms and stuff. You know, boom arms. There's no way I'll put this in my car. You know, you have a studio, just like store your stuff, and that's it. Like you move with your camera, with your lenses. That's what I'm taking home. But everything else, usually I leave it at the studio. So these are the advantages. Another advantage when you have a client coming to meet you at your studio. It has a different perception of if you're meeting your client in a coffee shop. You understand? Like the client comes here, he looks at the studio and wow, it's beautiful and whatever. There you go, you charge him double, you know, versus you're sitting at Tim Horton and you're wondering, is he gonna pay his coffee, or I'm the one who's gonna pay it? And you know, even the client, she's gonna be thinking, okay, he's a good photographer, but not as good as the price he's charging. Let's put it this way. Are the studios affordable? Depends on the studio itself. I know Greg, he has like beautiful studio at his house, so he has the luxury of having like good space, and he's having fun, like having all kind of backgrounds and stuff. Good for him. Am I gonna do this at home with my kids? Absolutely not. So I need to have a separate studio. Studios can be expensive unless you're 3 or 4 photographers. Then it's not expensive anymore. And this is the trend right now. I don't know any single photographer, and seriously, I know at least like 300. I don't know any single photographer who rents the studio on his own and he's paying the 100% of the bill. All the studios, you know, they're like 3, 4, 5, 6 photographers. They have a shared calendar, so they don't step on each other's feet. And that's it. They set their schedule and they go from there. The client, when he comes to my studio, this is my studio at 100%. He doesn't need to know that I'm working with 7 or 8, actually we're 4 here, but he doesn't need to know that we are like 4 of us. He comes and this is your studio, absolutely, and we just go from there. So it's kind of expensive, but it's not that expensive. So when you have the right people, you don't pay more than probably like $200-300 a month, which is worth it. If you're paying $300 for the luxury of being at a studio, you know what, go for it. If you start your studio career and you rent your studio for $1,200 and you're paying for it, make sure that you have enough clients to justify it. Because what's going to happen is you're going to start from $0 to $1,200 to start making money. What's going to happen is you coming to me and I'm charging $150. You'll tell me, you know what, I'm going to pay you $60. So for me, when I'm counting it, it's $60 closer to the $1,200. So I'll take the job. And this is bad. It's going to hurt your career at the end. Once you start charging like half of what you're supposed to charge, there you go. You cannot argue with other people. So this is the advantage of being at the studio. Equipment. Like you look inside the studio, probably you have like 20 light stands, 20 of this, like 5 of that. You know, even if you don't have all your equipment, like the other person will bring his equipment, you share your equipment, whatever, you know, all the backgrounds, all the equipment you can share. For me, the disadvantage of working 100% at the studio is things getting redundant. So for me, it's a background, it's a gray background, and source of light, and some modifiers, some smoke, and whatever. I don't have the luxury to go on a field or on doing like urbex or working like in an old castle or whatever. You know, all these are backgrounds you need to have your work diversified. For me, my work is just like gray background, and it's always gray background. I don't even do highlight high key, so it's always like 50% gray. Just like change the lighting, changing the jazz, and changing like and changing the model, hopefully, and that's it. But at the end, it gets a little boring. You know, it gets a little redundant. Like, you know, the person is coming. Okay, just set that background, and we cross our finger. Hopefully, it's gonna come up to something good. So these are, for me, the disadvantages are this. Like, it has a lot of advantages. And it has this. If you want your work to pop up, get a team. It's as easy as this. You know, you cannot do things by yourself. And team building is a long time relationship. Like, you need to be there for them. They need to be there for you. As I mentioned, like Jose saved my life, the other guys saved my life. Sometimes I just pick up the phone, listen, I have a client coming tomorrow. Can you do it or not? And she has plans, but you know what? I'll come for 45 minutes. She comes over, do the makeup and leaves. So it's a long-term relationship that you need to work on. People, they don't owe you anything. So if you don't give a good counterpart for them, if you don't give them what they ask for, they're not going to give you what you ask for. So I think it's obvious. Like for me, I'm lucky to have all these people around. So it takes me just to make phone calls and listen, like it's last minute. Can you guys do this? I'm stuck. And everybody is here the next day. So I'm very grateful for it. Last point, because the question was asked so many times online. Where do the post-processing stops? You take your picture, you do the best at the studio. You end up with a beautiful raw file that you're satisfied with. Some people, they take this and they go and do composites. Is it art? Absolutely. It's different type of art. Nowadays, with what's going on in the market, what you see online, just a picture that you take and you publish is not going to cut it. The pop factor, the wow factor, you need to know how to use Photoshop and you need to know how to use Lightroom. You have beautiful lighting, you have beautiful model. If you don't retouch your pictures, it's not going to be a good picture. Easy. Is it unethical? No. Because the process itself, it starts from coming to the studio and setting up your light until the day you publish your picture. When you shut down your studio, that was half of the process. The picture is not done yet. You're gonna go home, and you know when you start your processing, you have your own workflow, and you know that you're gonna be switching between Photoshop, Lightroom, going back. You already set up your own workflow, but you don't know the final outcome. You don't know it because you're just like tweaking stuff, just like tweaking things, and oh, that's beautiful, and you go from there and you change direction. At the end, you have the product that you like, but you don't. When you sit down on your computer, you don't know how the picture is going to look at the end, and it's good because that's where the creativity is. You have your picture, you have a good canvas that you can add to it. I have a lot of people telling me, you know, your pictures are just Photoshop. It's not. It is Photoshop, but it's not only Photoshop. And I'm happy with it, you know, like because when I take my picture, I look at the end of my camera and I already planned what I'm going to be doing on Photoshop. And that's the end, that's the end product is. And it's funny that those comments come from people who don't use Photoshop or Lightroom, you know. I added more effects to it, and it's ethical. Like when it's a paying client, if he asks for it, you don't even have to question this, you know. He's the client, he's the one paying money. So you want this, I'll just add it. It's good that you know how to do it.
And it's art.
It's art, c'est de l'art.
Exactly.
On fait pas de la photo reportage.
Exactly, and this is what makes a difference between me and Greg, between me and Luc, between me and René. We can have the same file, and that's what's going to happen. Like for the 4 concepts, we'll have like the same raw files. My outcome is going to be different from his outcome, and that's where that's where the beauty is. That's when the client, that's when somebody on Facebook is going to look at your picture without even seeing the logo and seeing your signature, and he knows this is a Luc picture or this is Karim's picture. You know, once you are there, like touch your picture, don't touch your picture. Nobody cares. It's you. So that's what it is.